everyone, I'm Catherine Greenberg and I'm so glad to be back. Thank you so much for tuning in. The topic for today is the F word. Today we're talking about forgiveness. One of my favorite quotes about forgiveness is this. It's when you take the knife out of your own back and you don't use it to hurt someone else. Forgiveness is so powerful. When you hold resentment towards someone else, what ends up happening is it binds you to that person by an emotional link that is stronger than steel. The way to dissolve that link is forgiveness. When you hold on to anger or pain or resentment, bitterness, you prevent the flow of love and abundance that moves in and out of you. So when we as human beings feel wronged, typically our first inclination is to respond negatively or hurtfully or with anger or even aggression. But when we're so deep in that pain of our hurt, it's really, really hard to see that what's going to free you from that is forgiveness. As humans, as glorious as we are, we tend to suffer quite a bit before we let go of that resistance and move to acceptance. What we don't really understand is that the choice of suffering, it's ours. Pain is always going to be there. You're not going to avoid pain, but you do have the choice how much and how long you suffer. So when we find ourselves trapped in our past hurts, we really can't live fully in the truth of this moment. And that's what we have. That's all that exists. This moment, this breath. So bring yourself back to the present and bring yourself back to the present. When you deny forgiveness, it not only blocks the flow of love and energy within you, but also around you. What you put out is what comes back. And we are also very, very amazing at postponing forgiveness. We're really good at it. We find that we're going to wait for the person who hurt us to repent, to apologize, to come to us and tell us that they're really, really sorry. Well, what happens when we postpone, all it ends up doing is hurting us because we are relinquishing our own peace. And when you choose to forgive, it's really the most glorious form of love there is. We've talked a little bit about what forgiveness is. Let's talk about what it is not. Forgiveness does not mean you must excuse the other person's actions. It does not mean that you must tell them that they are forgiven. It definitely doesn't mean that you're not going to have any more feelings about the situation. It doesn't mean there's nothing left to work out in the relationship. It doesn't mean you're going to forget that it happens. I do not subscribe to forgive and forget. You can forgive and remember that something happened. It does not mean you must include that person in your life. You can forgive someone and choose not to have them as part of your life. This is absolutely okay. It is not something you do for the other person. Forgiveness is for you. It's not about the other person. The other person doesn't even need to know. It's for your own heart, your own peace, your own mind, body, and spirit. When you choose to forgive, what you're doing is accepting the reality of what happened. And you are finding a way to live in a state of peace with it. Otherwise, you end up fighting reality. And as humans, we want to work as much as we can with what is, not what we wish were. This will not happen overnight. It may, and if it does, then that's incredible. Pretty good chance it'll take some practice and some doing, especially if it's a deeper hurt. You can choose to include the other person, but you do not have to. It is up to you, it is for you, and it is something that you choose. So that's great. That's fantastic in theory. What about in practice? Why is it so hard? I'm so glad you asked. We have thoughts of revenge. It's okay. We do. That doesn't necessarily mean we act on them. You can have a thought, and it doesn't need to turn into a behavior. We feel superior. Okay. You don't know how to resolve the situation, and that brings us to the fear. You may feel addicted to the adrenaline that anger provides, and it becomes familiar, almost convenient. It's something we know. You may identify as a victim. You may fear that if you forgive the person, it can either mean you must reconnect with them or you will lose them entirely. The first question to ask is this: do I want to forgive? We are often told that you must forgive. It's really important to forgive. No. No. Sorry. In order to forgive, you must be willing. Willingness is required in order to forgive. And sometimes you won't be, and that's absolutely okay. There are going to be hurts that went so deep that you aren't able to forgive. You can live in a state of peace, and you cannot forgive someone who hurt you so deeply. Absolutely. If you choose to forgive, you must identify and feel and express and ultimately release your anger before you can forgive. It's almost impossible to hold on to anger and forgive someone. You have to make a choice. Take some time. Find some time to be alone with yourself. We often are really scared of being alone with ourselves. And when we are, we have the TV on, or we have music on, or we're scrolling on our phone. Lean in, get really curious, and learn to be still. It's hard. Try it for 30 seconds a day. Whatever works for you, find some time to be alone with you, because you are amazing. When you are spending that time with you, use the time to think about the incident. Think about what happened. Think about your interpretation of it, your thoughts about it. Remember, you're not responding to the event. You're responding to your thoughts about it. Your brain makes an automatic interpretation of what happened, and the thoughts arise, and that's what we're responding to. So choose your thoughts, and you'll choose how you respond to it. Accept that it happened. It happened. There isn't any other way it could have happened. Every single thing in the universe is the next step. It happened exactly the way it was meant to have happened. Acknowledge how you felt about it and how you reacted. This is such a key piece of this. It's not right, it's not wrong, it just is, and it's okay. How you feel is how you feel. It is not up to anybody else to tell you whether your pain is valid. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. Acknowledge your growth. You grow from every single thing that happens that causes discomfort. What did you learn about what you need? What did you learn about what your boundaries are? You survived it, you grew from it, and now you're going to live in a different state. Think about the other person. That person acted from limited beliefs and a skewed frame of reference. You were hurt, they were trying to get their needs met. I'm not excusing what they did or condoning it. It's a way to understand and gain empathy. When we look at someone's intention rather than their behavior, we're going to nourish empathy. Everything we do and everything we say comes from somewhere, but we're quick to judge on someone's behavior. But when we judge ourselves, it's based on our intentions. So look at the person's intentions rather than the behavior. We've talked about forgiveness. Now let's bring in the T word, trust. Forgiveness does not necessarily mean there's going to be an instant restoration of trust. Forgiveness can be immediate, but trust may need to be earned and often takes time to rebuild. Forgiveness is based on grace. Trust is based on works. You don't have to earn forgiveness. You may have to earn trust. You can forgive someone without trusting them again. You can forgive someone without trusting them again. You may find that you're in a relationship and you've forgiven your partner, but that doesn't mean you're going to go back to the way it was. Will you forgive me? Yes. Can we go back to the way it was? Nope. Forgiveness and restoration of a relationship are independent creatures. Forgiveness is owned by the one who has been hurt, regardless of whether the offender responds, whether they've asked for it, whether they ever recognize its need. Forgiveness will not necessarily excuse the behavior, but what it will do, it will prevent that behavior from shattering your heart. It can end up being the strongest form of love. And when you fall in love with yourself, you're not going to give a hoot what anybody else thinks. A strong person can apologize, and an even stronger one can forgive. I didn't make that up. Restoration of a relationship takes a lot more time than forgiveness. Forgiveness can come quickly, and it also may take a lot of time. It really depends on you. It depends on the incident. It depends on the relationship. It depends on the universe. Thank y'all so much for being here. I am Catherine Greenberg. I'm a certified life coach in Sarasota, Florida, and I work with people who are struggling with addiction and trauma. Everything I do is based on mindfulness. And the topic today, it's a weighty and poignant one. Forgiveness comes into our life no matter who you are, where you live, what you're struggling with. And I often find that when I run groups, I teach what I need to learn, what I need to hear. And I have been struggling with forgiveness lately. And what I have found is that when I make space for it, it brings a kind of peace that I hadn't known previously. So I encourage you to figure out whether that's something you're ready for, whether that's something you're willing to do. I love what I do, and it's such a privilege to be able to do it. I know that I healed so I could go out and help others heal. And so I'm grateful to be on this journey and to be able to share it with you, because I know what that pain is like, and I know where you're sitting today. And I want to remind you that you are not alone, and we need you to stay here. One moment, one breath at a time. That's all that exists. I will leave you with one of my favorite quotes by Eleanor Roosevelt. You must do the thing you think you cannot do. And remember, you are so loved.